last section. We're going to do this in reverse order from Proposition 12, 11, and 10, just to confuse you.
Because if you're not already confused, we can help.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
So Proposition 12 is said it's to establish new standards for confinement of animals and bans the sale of non-compliant products. Sounds like a great idea, but also sounds really familiar because the state legislature actually passed a law like this a couple of years ago. Essentially, it says you can't confine a gestating pig in an area where it can't turn around. You can't have egg-laying hens sit in coops where they can't turn around. It's supposed to give more freedom of movement and also to move toward free-range animals. Okay, great idea. What's this all about? Well, as much as this one says it's to establish new standards, which it does, it makes the area greater, but it also delays the state legislature law that requires other companies outside of California to meet these standards in order to sell products here. That's what it really is, and I figured that out because it's from the United Egg Company or something. What is it called?
You looking at proponents?
Yeah.
Yeah, the egg people.
Yeah, the people that mass produce eggs.
Yeah.
And the thing is, what they want to do is they want to delay it because it costs them a lot of money to redo their facilities like the way California does. And they don't want to do it.
And the thing is, I probably, if they had left that aspect of it out, I probably would vote yes for this because it is an update of the law that was passed a few years ago in a way that probably would be friendly to the animals. I have no problem with that on a personal level. But my tip-off was to look at the expanding list of opponents and try to understand exactly why they objected, because it looked to me on the surface like it ought to be beneficial, but it doesn't seem to be. So the opponents include the Association of California Egg Farmers, the National Pork Producers Council. So far that's fairly predictable. The Humane Farming Association, which I think was in favor of that previous ballot prop. PETA, Friends of Animals.
I remember PETA.
Are you? You can't possibly be, really.
The PETA for the People for Eating of Tasty Animals?
It's a different one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it is a different, ethical is a word in there.
Oh.
And that tipped me off that something weird was going on, which then tells me, look into it a little bit further. You look to see who is spending money on it. Prevent Cruelty California is a nice name, but that's a political action committee that only exists for this election. Who put it together, basically? It's a relatively small group of people. The Humane Society is on board, but most of the funding is coming from individuals. And you check out to see who those people are, and those are people who own major, I think in 3 of the 4 cases, egg-producing operations. They think they're going to benefit. They think that will be in their benefit, which is kind of curious. And then I start to look at commentary from the places where they have full-time people investigating this stuff, some newspapers, several of which are pretty good. And the issue they have is, again, the complexities of this kind of thing should be handled by the legislature. There seems to be a very clear list of people who would benefit, who are spending money on this to get money from this. And I just don't think this is the right way to go about it. I don't have any objection to updating that law and making the conditions more humane. That's not the only thing this does, and I don't like the way it's set up. Partly, I even tell students this, the older you get, the better your BS detector gets in many cases, just because you've had a little more life experience to know that something is a little off here. Mm-hmm. And you found an element of that. I think I found a couple of elements of that. And the beauty of a ballot prop is if we happen to be mistaken, they can bring this back and make it a better item in the next election cycle if they want to. This can come up again. We can have a different ballot prop and continue to address the issue. I would rather the legislature go ahead and address this issue and do its job.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm voting
no.
no.
All right. Proposition 11 requires private sector ambulance workers to be on call during breaks.
I don't think this expresses my point of view well. There we go.
Okay. Yeah, this is kind of a stupid thing. My position is everyone else is on call during breaks. Why should they not be? This is a crucial issue. A fireman wouldn't say they're not going to go put out a fire if they're on break. A policeman won't go out on a call if they're not on break. A doctor won't treat someone if he's on a break. A nurse won't treat someone if they're on a break. I mean, they will. Breaks don't mean anything to most people. This is strictly a union thing. And
This is about can workers who haven't been required to do something that other similar workers do, should they be required to do it? And the answer is yes. It's a weird prop,
Yeah.
which is why this is dangling. This is just driving me up the wall. So who is Californians for Emergency Preparedness and Safety? It's just a small group of organizations and some individuals. It's principally the American, the AMT company that runs ambulances is spending the money. There wasn't, there's no argument submitted against. I only found one organization that is officially on record against. It's the California Teachers Association, probably because they owe another labor group a favor or something. No money is being spent against. The legislature should take care of this. I didn't even find a lot of editorials, either for or against. There's one against, but it's the San Francisco Chronicle, so we can ignore that safely.
yes.
I just, honestly, again, this really should not be before the voters.
And you vote no because it should go to the legislature.
And my take is, I don't care how you vote on this. And if you have a strong position because you are an EMT, I have one student who's an EMT. And I asked him what he thought about this ballot prop just this past week. And he said, oh, there's a ballot prop? And he's a member. He's yeah.
All right.
Do what you want. All right.
All right, here we go. Proposition 10. Eliminate state restrictions to local rent control initiatives. I'm not even going to get into the issue of whether rent control is a good idea or not. I'm only concerned about whether this is going to be good for people who are renters or for people who are looking for places to rent. And there's no restriction to any California municipality or county for instituting some form of rent control. But the restrictions that are currently in the state make it kind of uniform for the state. You can still have a lot of different ways to do it, but it's still uniform.
There's a state uniform?
Yes.
I didn't get the memo. What's our state uniform?
Naked.
Naked?
Yes.
Well, we'll need to take a little change and be back. Never. I don't want to really do that.
No one wants to see that.
No, no.
For either of us. Two fat old men on tape. So anyway,
You said that like it's a bad thing.
that's my concern about this, is that this will make it, well, for number one, it creates whole new levels of bureaucracy, because you've got to have separate rent boards for every community that does this to come up with a different form of regulation. And I think it just it'll make things worse. I truly believe, because it has in every locale that's done rent control, it'll increase the prices of rents and reduce the stock of rental property. That's why I'm against it.
You reactionary lover of cash. Here is my response. We have to get into the insults now. It's important we do this at the end, right?
You filthy pink pig.
You are partly correct. There is pinkness. I don't want to go into it. It's unimportant. I'm getting treatment. So let's move on. I just want to assess this in two ways. Number one, this does not require any community, any city or town or county to do anything. It makes it possible for it to be done there. And I want the conversation to happen. My rent keeps going up and nobody is doing anything about it. My household, we're looking into the possibility of moving out of state because we can't afford to live in the Bay Area anymore. Many other parts of California that used to be more affordable are coming up fast too, so that's no assist. My rent now goes up in San Jose. It goes up by law not more than 5%, which means it's 5% every single year. I don't get raises like that. I'm making effectively less money all the time and have fewer housing choices, and nobody's doing anything about it. Now, it's conceivable that your argument that rent control doesn't work is largely true. I can imagine there might be some local exceptions. What I'd really like to see is particular towns and cities across the state, especially near the coasts where this is the biggest problem, have the opportunity to debate this, discuss it, and even if they don't pass it, to then get people riled up enough to insist that actions be taken, because otherwise this will eventually cause significant problems for the California economy as a whole bunch of good people leave. And we do not want to create a state in which a lot of people who are like me, I'm a college instructor, I'm married to a social worker. Are we allowed to live in Santa Clara County? Because the way it's going, we're not going to be able to very long. And nobody's doing anything about it. The other side of this is, who are my friends? Who are the people that are more likely to work with me on solutions that I think are meaningful? I look at the list of opponents of 10, and they cannot be my friends. It's wealthy interests. It is a whole bunch of realtors. And again, I have former students that are realtors, but there are realtors, and then there are realtors who are looking only at top-end homes and are very, very wealthy. And they're not my friend here. They're not helping out. I look at the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. The California Republican Party is an official opponent. And then I look at the list of people who in groups that are in favor, and I see a bunch of people that I can have a better assurance are actually working in my interest. There's a lot of money being spent on this. There are a lot of ads. We probably do agree that a lot of the ads on both sides are kind of misleading. They're awful.
Horrible.
You could, by the way, that's one trick, is you simply skip the official propaganda that appears on TV screens or online.
Go get a beer. Go have a cup of coffee.
You're much better
Kiss
off
your
to,
wife.
Clean something. Anything would be better than that stuff. We agree on that completely. That's garbage. I'm picking who my friends are. Let local voters and governments make the decision. I can't side with wealthy realtors when my rent continues to soar. This is not going to be the entire answer, but it may be a portion of it in some communities, and we must make changes or a whole lot of people, we're already seeing a trickle of people move out of the state. It's only going to get worse. And there may be a variety of things we need to do. But folks, we're going to have to move this forward. I am not going to side with the wealthy people who are telling me that I should vote no.
And as much as I appreciate that and sympathize with it, I think it's shooting yourself in the foot. I think it's going to make it worse. Yeah.
I don't, and here's the thing, I don't know if you're right. And at the same time,
I don't know if you're right.
And sitting and doing nothing on this is where we've been, and that's not working. And again, the biggest benefit I can see out of this is if a whole bunch of city and town councils are forced to hold public discussions and debates about this and get covered in all kinds of local press so people can explore options. And if people who don't want to do rent control may prevail, but then that doesn't mean the problem has been addressed. It hasn't been touched, and that will rile people up enough, I hope,
and
to take action.
I think that's a positive place that we can come down to.
Which is?
Here's the situation, folks. One of the reasons we get into the mess we are in right now in this country is because we don't take responsibility. Excuse me.
You're choking up.
Yes.
I'm touched.
We don't take responsibility for what goes on in this country. This country was designed to be a nation of laws agreed upon by the democratic process. Okay? If you do not participate in the democratic process, you get major screw-ups. Now, we live here in Redwood City.
You do.
Yeah. Well, I do. He used to. And overall, I'm pretty happy with our city government. In fact, I brag about it to people all over the world because we actually have a city where people get involved. But at the same time, until this current political cycle, people in my neighborhood never went out to vote. They said nobody cares. And Craig is right that we have to have this discussion on a local level. Okay, even with the restrictions, there are things that we can do locally that can ameliorate this. Part of it is building affordable housing. Okay, as much as you might hate the fact that lots of people are moving into the San Francisco Bay Area, they're gonna come no matter what. And they're gonna have to find places to live. And that means either they live in squalor here or they commute 75 miles a day, maybe more.
Squalor, is that near San Bruno?
No, it's right in my neighborhood.
All right.
Okay. And
Sorry.
so, yeah, we have to have to lighten it up a bit, but we have to do something. And the idea of just not building anything and letting the demand continue to grow while the stock of housing shrinks is not the way to do it. We got to build, and that's just the way it is.
And I'm not sure I agree completely with that, but certainly that will be an element of it, because we do have some places. You see, this overlaps. This is why we need a lot of people to attend to it, and need to hold our legislators accountable about it when they're the ones that are supposed to be devoting the full time to come up with interesting and useful solutions, and that doesn't always occur, like in the case of Prop 10. Folks, this overlaps with so many issues. With what is the appropriate density of the housing and occupancy, how much traffic congestion can an area sustain? Anybody who drives around in the Bay Area knows that's an issue, certainly. How much money do we spend on mass transit and how is it implemented? This overlaps into so many other topics. This is big and complicated because we have a big and complex society. But where Lou and I can agree without reservation on any of this, not necessarily about Prop 10, is democracy is a participation sport, and if we don't get a sufficient number of people involved, we are not going to keep it.
Nope.
And moneyed or other powerful interests will simply always prevail. I'm fond of pointing out to my students the times that the people with the big money didn't win. It does actually happen a little bit more often than you think.
Yeah.
Which is comforting. At the same time, that is still probably generally the way to bet, and that bothers me. There's something very basically off there in a democracy in which a great many people don't bother to participate. And I've heard all the reasons why people have, and some of them I can understand, if not agree with. But folks, we're going to have more people get actively interested and involved, and do it not briefly over one topic or issue, but sustain that as a regular part of their lives if we're going to keep this thing. And I think we want to keep this thing when we look at the way things have deteriorated in some countries that can't be called democracies now. This is preferable. What was Churchill's quote? Democracy is the worst form of government except all the others that have ever been tried, and there's a great deal to that. It's also been called Noah's Ark. It stinks, but it's the only thing afloat. Democracy is worth fighting for. We agree about that part, and you're utterly wrong on Prop 10, and let's move on.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's it for 2018. Craig and I really don't care how you vote, just as long as you do it with some intelligence.
No, I wouldn't go that far.
Oh, shut up. And we want, what we do care about is that you get off your butt and vote. And in the San Mateo County, they make it real easy because you don't have to get up off your butt. You just got to be able to put a stamp on your ballot. So just do that.
Do you still have to stamp your ballots in this county?
Yes.
Really? Santa Clara County picks up the mail tab.
Maybe they do.
I don't know. You know, by the way, one reason we might not be sure is these laws do change periodically, so yeah. I don't know.
So even at that point, it's cheaper than driving.
And it's worth doing. One other thought is if you don't vote, you don't get to complain. We're not going to listen.
Yeah.
If you do, we can talk.
So thanks for listening, and I hope we helped.
If we didn't, don't tell anybody. Thank you.
Bye.